All right, welcome back to VP Culture Value Science class, and we're going to be talking about values more in depth here, and we're going to be looking at experiential values once again and focusing on the value of harmony. So again, we've been talking about all the different creational values that we create. What are the little things that you do that will go on to create the experiential values of harmony specifically? Now let's expand again this experiential values. And remember, we're talking about the calming side right now, and then there's the excitatory side. The calming side is made up of trust, harmony, and peace. We'll be looking at harmony today. Excitatory will be wisdom, nobility, and joy, and we'll look at those later down the line. So let's focus on harmony. It sounds like a very idealistic notion, but it really is about how do you get people, once they trust you, to start functioning together. It's like, this is, do I trust you? Do we trust each other? Now let's start defining our interactions together and how we're going to work together. That's what harmony is all about. Okay, this is harmony. The fundamental question for harmony is, can we do life together? Once you've gotten past trust, the question is, can we do life together? Can we get our lives together? There have been people that I do trust, but we failed to reach great levels of harmony because we weren't able to figure this out. So it's very important that we can do life together well. Harmony is made up of these three subsets: order, empathy, and humility. So once again, do you as a leader, can you tell me exactly how to create harmony, the experience? You should be able to say it's order, empathy, and humility. To name those three subsets just like that. So again, this is going to take a little experience, a little bit of work. And then you're going to have to talk about these things with your teams so that you can say, how do we create order? How do we create empathy? How do we create humility when we're working together? So let's look at the first one, order. Now, order, you think, how important is this? But this is critical to every organization. When you get a group of people together, we have these circuits that are called social learning circuits. And they will begin to try to establish order immediately based on various criteria that we see in our environment. When you walk in the room, who's the biggest, strongest person? Well, that'll create a sense of order. Who's the person who has the corner office? Who has other symbols of status? Like, that person has a nicer coat than I do. That person, and we start to do this automatically. Our brain starts doing this and setting things in order. And when we set things in order, does everyone know their boundaries? Not in a, like, trying to restrict people in unhealthy ways, but we're trying to define the locations and the order in which, like, this person has this amount of authority, this person has responsibilities over this, these people interact in these ways. The more that we can define our interactions in a healthy way, the more that we're going to bring order and harmony into our organizations. Hierarchies are not the boogeyman. Unbeknownst to a lot of popular literature that says hierarchies are the problem. No, we've all experienced hierarchies that are devoid of these values, and that's why we don't like them. But the hierarchies and the power is not the problem. The problem is not using the values to serve and create experiential values for others. And one of the great things that you can do as a leader is to establish everyone's boundaries well. Because in every culture, in every group of people, this needs to be done. It'll either be done explicitly by you, or it will be fought out in each individual relationship with varying qualities of dialogues and maneuvers and things like that. And you're going to have a lot of wasted energy. It's proven that hierarchies are the most efficient way for us to live in society, because we don't have to waste time fighting over who does what or who has authority to do what. And those that are in the highest points of leadership that serve others, we'll see, create the most harmony in their organizations, not those that lord it over. So the opposite of order is disorder, is fighting over boundaries. When you leave your staff and your teams to just duke it out, figure out for yourself where you should be, who's doing what, who's on, it's not that you need to dictate everything. Perhaps there's discussions. Perhaps there's interactions. but the clarity needs to come, and you're the one that needs to lead them into that clarity so that they can experience order within your culture. The next one is empathy. We've talked about this in our emotional science course, but what is empathy? Do we connect emotionally? So you need to be able to actually be able to speak to one another in those emotional languages that we delved into more deeply in the emotional science course. This is the values expression of that is empathy. Can we actually connect on that level? And do we get each other in our interpersonal reactions on an emotional level? Because we go beyond trust into connection, into this level. And the opposite of empathy is what I'm going to call apathy or neglect. It's when someone is not engaged with, when someone is left isolated, when someone is left out of that emotional engagement, they're going to feel neglected. So the boss that stays, the leader that stays off in his office and never comes out is going to not create empathy. So oftentimes we think it's about the emotional engagement. It's about the time that you spend away from each other that oftentimes affects this more than anything else. Okay, next is humility. How do we create humility? What is that? Oftentimes, humility, people have this misconception that it's, I need to look at myself as being small and insignificant. It's really what it is elevating others, seeing the awesomeness in others. When I elevate everyone else, then everyone else it's going to seem like I'm below, but because I've been actively elevating everyone else. When I see the awesomeness in others, doesn't mean that I'm not awesome, that I don't have traits and good things to bring. I don't have to have some sort of false sense of humility that I don't talk about what I'm good at. But the primary thing is, do you release the awesomeness in others? So we talked about a little bit of this in personality science. Understanding what people are great at, understanding their gifts, understanding what they do is great, and reinforcing that. All right, the opposite of humility is kind of feeling like you're the only one that you can trust to do things right. If you find yourself blaming and saying things like this, I'm the only one that can do things right, you're not finding the awesomeness in others. You're not letting go. You're not letting others people do things. So that's one of the primary things, a primary look at how you will exhibit a lack of humility is saying that you're the only one that can do things right. All right, so harmony is these three things: order, empathy, and humility. You can create those experiences within your organization. You're going to start to create more and more harmony within your organization. So how do we create harmony? So, like for example, in order, do we have clear roles and responsibilities written down? Do we have roles and responsibilities that are unclear and let people fight for them? And what's going on there with our lack of clarity? Do we neglect that? Empathy. Do we talk about our energy and our stories together, or do we ignore people and neglect people with our apathy? Humility. Do we discuss personalities? Do we have it all worked out so that people know exactly what they're great at? Or do we roll our eyes and say, I'm the only person that can get this done? So talking about how you can create these things within your organization is what is going to be able to give you the power to create these things in greater detail so that you can create great experiences within your organization that will create great culture.